Hello and welcome to episode 27 of our Hearts of Iron 3 Puppet Master series. You'll notice a few more flags, well maybe you won't, there's lots of flags on there, but there's a few new ones on there. Saudi Arabia and Oman joined us last time, Yemen the time before. We've been doing a little bit of conquest in the Middle East, but mainly we have been focused on the Soviet Union. A few episodes ago we captured Stalingrad, which was phenomenal. The Soviets were collapsing over the period of about 2 episodes. We pushed them from Warsaw to Stalingrad. But that triggered a couple of events, and they got a sudden manpower boost. And since then they've pushed us right back, well, into Poland to be honest, but we're mostly fighting the Ukraine. The last episode, very recently, things have been looking up a bit for us. We're still being driven back slowly, but the SS Corps has actually pulled off 2 encirclements. The first one against the Sea of Azov, which went very well for us. We trapped a number of divisions, and we are about to finish a second one, also on the Sea of Azov, but heading down south from Rostov na Don. So let's see how it goes. I actually think I finished this encirclement in the last episode, so we're gonna, obviously a few seconds behind, but we can have a bit of an overlap. As you can see, our forces are about to link up, and we'd have trapped half a dozen Soviet divisions, which isn't fantastic, but every little bit counts at this point, and we're just got to try and erode the Soviet manpower as quickly as we can. And other than that, my troops are just going to have to try and hold the line. We have to capture this province, though, to maintain the line, since the Soviets have driven us out of Zernovi, or Zernovoy. I am terrible at pronouncing these Russian names. You should let me know if these names are Russian. We might be heading into the Circassian lands, although I imagine that's live Russian names. This is the Soviet Union, not, I don't know, what's a non-authoritarian Russian thing? I don't think that's ever existed. Anyway, encirclement almost complete, just got to get those troops moving forward, and those ones are going to struggle to defend. By those ones I mean Students' Division. Bremer's division's moving in to finish off the encirclement along with Kepler's, and AI is doing a very good job of putting the pressure on the enemy. If we can actually get there, which Kepler's about to do, we would have surrounded a pretty massive stack of soldiers. There we go. Oh, and the armoured division's been surrounded and is about to be destroyed. So that's one division gone. Oh, there we puppeted Saudi Arabia. So yeah, I'm actually probably a minute or 2 out. Oh well, puppeted Saudi Arabia and Oman. But let's see if we can finish these guys off. Oh, have they gone? 7th Infantry shattered. No, the Soviets are still fighting there. Actually, they're doing very well. They just managed to beat off our attack. So it looks like our troops here will hold. Soviet Infantry Division versus one of our SS Panzer Divisions. I just need someone in decent condition to attack that pocket and finish them off. I mean, they're actually doing a pretty good job of wearing themselves down. Here we go, the 6th SS IronIII. It's attacking a lot of Soviet divisions, but they have very low organisation. So hopefully they'll do the trick. And here my SS troops in Rostov are pretty badly damaged. Students is in bad shape, but I'll send them up to support the line. Just gotta wait for Reinhardt to do this. And actually Reinhardt looks like he might be about to do it. The Italians have joined in the attack. And there we go, we won and just destroyed a pretty massive stack of Soviet troops. Of course it might well be a bit of a drop in the bucket because I am pretty negative in terms of the manpower, or the German manpower situation. Basically, I'm going to have to kill a lot of Soviet troops, and I don't actually have a lot of troops. Well, technically, I don't actually have any troops to spare. Seeing a couple of my divisions have shattered, well, well, we're only 4 minutes into this video, and yeah, a couple of my divisions have already shattered, and it's only going to increase as I keep taking more casualties than I can replace. My SS divisions are prioritised, so they are maintaining their strength, although a few of them are in Rostov have taken some pretty significant manpower losses. So for now we're actually just going to be trying to hold the line with the SS. And my great mass of allies here in the Ukraine. I think quite a few of these countries seem to have pretty decent manpower. Poland's army is basically non-existent, but France and Italy seem to just keep sending troops to the front. So you've got to assume they've still got manpower. Romania is probably the same. So basically I'm going to have to rely on them increasingly since, well, my manpower is gone. And speaking of which, since I finished the encirclement, I should put Oberkommando Europe back to being defensive. Negative 433. So that's gotten bad very quickly. Of course, it is February 1946, so that by this point Germany had completely surrendered, and, well, honestly, probably they wouldn't have been able to put an army this size in the field in February 1945, at least I don't think they would have. Or probably they would have had the same number of divisions, but very, very few soldiers for them. So I think in the grand scheme of things I'm doing alright. Well, I am doing better than Germany did historically, since I've basically conquered all of Europe bar the Soviet Union and a few, well, I think just the Baltic states and Finland actually. I mean, I've conquered the UK and Ireland. I mean, India's in my country, so I should, well, in my faction. So once Britain gets itself sorted, we should have plenty of soldiers to help us out here. And negative 417, so my manpower situation is actually improving slowly while I'm not attacking. And just going to have a look at Britain there. It looks like they're spending their industrial capacity on building garrison troops for now. So that's not actually great. I mean, they were going to do it anyway. I would have preferred they'd done infantry straight up and then sent it to the Eastern Front, because it's getting kind of desperate over here. But I'm thinking if I try and take Persia, it might actually drag a few British divisions into the fight. I mean, I've got plenty of allies here with divisions, you know, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, Iraq, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, Egypt. Basically, it would help bring their troops into the Eastern Front, and also the British troops, if I can capture Persia quickly. And also, you know, link me up with the British India. I mean, also, another thing is my African army, or Oberkommando Africa, actually isn't doing anything. They're not attacking Liberia, they're just using up a lot of troops sitting around. Not attacking South Africa, not attacking Ethiopia. So it would also bring my African troops onto the Eastern Front. Well, it'll be a kind of southern front at that point, but it'll bring them into the fight against the Soviet Union, which definitely helped me out. I'm just thinking now about doing an amphibious invasion of Finland, just to get, if I can do it quickly, Finland's army would be very helpful against the Soviets, and also open up a second front. I could also get Manchukuo and Japan as my ally. I could invite them to my faction, which would also give me a bit of help against the Soviets, but for now we're just going to go with Persia. I think it's the best option here. And Oberkommando Africa doesn't seem to want to move. Or at least it doesn't want to set up a front line against the Persian border. Set my Middle Eastern allies to attack Tehran. And let's just go for it. Puppet Persia. My Actually, I probably should have set Britain as an objective, but I'm sure Britain will figure it out. Italy, the UK and France can help since they've all got kind of African colonies. Actually, there's a fair few British troops in the region. I mean, headquarters at least. I don't see any infantry, but headquarters are still useful. Well, not really, but at least it shows they've got some presence there. Okay, the Soviets have retaken Rostov and Don, but we've got a pretty good defensive line behind the river there. So we should be able to hold them and recover our organisation. And manpower. Look at the 8th SS has taken probably only about 2/3 strength. We're moving in on Minsk. And by we I mean a Spanish division. And yeah, nothing seems to be happening here. Some troops are relocating to the Persian border. And my allies don't seem to be doing much. Oh, here they come, they're slowly moving up. I suppose I should have actually given them time to get in position, but well, whatever. 4th Light Division shattered. Okay, and Persia has of course joined the Comintern, so we should see some Soviet troops pulling off the front lines to go help them out, which will give us a temporary advantage in Ukraine here, at least hopefully. And I'm just going to take off all of Oberkommando's Europe's objectives other than the offensive ones. Just hopefully it will mean it'll have less divisions guarding places. But we probably don't need all those divisions facing South Africa, since we aren't actually going to fight them apparently. Definitely don't need to garrison North Africa, because it's well and truly ours. Actually, the entire Mediterranean Sea is ours now that the UK's on our side. And hopefully this will get a few divisions heading towards Persia. And the AIs decide to put 2 garrison divisions with 2 garrison brigades with an infantry brigade, which means that this division's not going to be very good at attacking, but I still really want it to because it's just sitting there doing nothing. Try and do a little attack to see how strong Rostov is, and the answer is very strong. So let's stop that attack. Negative 465.5, so that's gotten a lot worse for some reason. And still nothing much happening against Persia. The British are moving troops to that area, so that's good. Well, a couple of divisions. Oh hey, and Australia's landed in Indochina finally. Yeah, there we go. Spies estimate Britain has 3,000 manpower. So that would be very good. 153 IC. Should be producing divisions rather quickly for them. Actually, they've got more base IC than mine, but they have less available. And I can't see much about any other of my allies, except for Greece. I wish I could just, like, get Britain to give me some of its manpower. Just send over, you know, 100 odds, or really... What is it? Probably every manpower point is worth like 1,000 soldiers, so just send over like 100,000 Indians. They would do very well. I mean, it would be a bit odd for the Nazi Empire to just say, hey, give us 100,000 Indian soldiers and we'll put them in the army. But I actually kind of have a feeling that Germany tried that, or at least they had like an Indian nationalist battalion or something like that. I might just be making that up, but it seems like something I've read about. I don't really need my allies pushing so aggressively, so we'll take Bryansk away as an objective. And 24th Infantry Division shattered. Where should we go? Because we've still got Minsk as an objective, and Rostov, Kiev, Donetsk. So yeah, they're basically just going to focus on holding the line now. 10% of the way to the Soviet surrender. And we're still not attacking Persia. Well, actually, the Israelis are just moving into Persian territory. 30th Infantry Division shattered. As I said, this is going to become much more common. That's the old cavalry commando. Pulling back from Poland. I'll make the 11th Panzer Division prioritise because it's only got 172 soldiers. I don't want to have to keep watching them shatter. The SS Army is actually in pretty good condition now. Had plenty of time to recover, I say, as they come under attack, but they seem to have defeated the Soviets there rather quickly. I'm actually kind of tempted to just go around and do an encirclement of Rostov here. I should be able to cross the river on either side of the city. And then, well yeah, once that's happened it should all be pretty straightforward, to be honest. And I'll just leave my AI and the allies behind to hold the line. And yeah, we're doing a pretty good job on our attacks across the river there, and those are going to be the hardest part, especially against that mechanised division for some reason. But there we go, we crossed the river in the east. And we're about to cross it in the west. And there's a mechanised division in Rostov, and it's always very good to knock those out. They are very powerful divisions, very expensive too. Although really, now that I think about it, I probably should have built mechanised divisions and heavy tank divisions, just because I ran out of manpower well before I ran out of industrial capacity. And while they are very expensive in industrial capacity, they're actually fairly efficient in terms of manpower, and they don't use a lot more manpower than a, you know, regular motorised or armoured division. But, well, you learn. And a couple of heavy divisions would be very useful in some situations. Many of these breakthroughs, like you saw me crossing the river, it would be very useful to have heavy tanks there. And mechanised divisions. And I think I've forgotten the game's paused, so I'm wondering why my troops aren't moving very rapidly. There we go, unpause it. Suddenly they start attacking again, things start happening. The Royal Navy is very strong around the UK. Of course, I don't think there's actually many enemies around the UK, but well, they might be doing something useful. Okay, so we've surrounded Rostov. Now Schmidt is attacking the city, so we don't even have to. And those divisions are already very worn down, so 1st Panzer Division might be able to do it by itself. And there we go. 2 more Soviet divisions encircled and destroyed. Oh, there's a gap in our line now, but that's not actually important since we're not encircling anybody anymore, but I'll still send a couple of divisions south to hold Taganrog. And then you will just hold and see how, if any opportunities develop for more encirclements. I'm kind of tempted to head back along the Sea of Azov just to try and link up, get a second supply route back to Germany for these troops. And Persia, still not a lot's happening. Oh, underground resistance base in Kharkiv. I'm about halfway through building my own underground resistances. And I'm thinking, see, last episode, I've never actually used underground resistance before, but I think I can put them into the occupied parts of Poland, and that's about it. So it's a very concentrated area to put all these partisan troops, or underground resistance I should say, but, well, they might do something useful. And actually, the Soviets are also putting their efforts into underground resistance, and the only reason I'm doing it is because I'm out of manpower, but I've still got industrial capacity to spend. So maybe the Soviets are having the same problem? I feel like that's a bit of a stretch, but an optimistic stretch is probably the way to put it. I mean, there might be some logic to that. The AI might be fairly rational, or might kind of think the way I do. Anyway, I'm just going to switch Oberkommando Europe to offensive, just to see if maybe a little push will force the Soviets to break here. Don't need Kiev as an objective anymore. Well, we hold Kiev and I want my allies to be attacking just a little bit. So let's aim for Hommel. And yep, everyone attack Hommel. I mean, I'm assuming most of my Middle Eastern people will stay fighting Persia because it's right near them. And let's also set Kharkov as an objective. And yeah, might as well. Voroshilovgrad. I think I missed a few people to go towards Kharkov. But oh well. And yeah, we don't need Rostov and the Don. We're attacking now, not defending. And if they just push north, they'll basically hold Rostov by default. Oh, we've actually got a really good defensive line behind that river. It goes almost the entire length of the front, except for where we've pushed beyond it. And yep, the Net Petrovsk doesn't need to be an objective for the same reason. We've been holding it for a long time. We do not need to continue holding it. Well, we would like to, but our main objective should be to push forward now. Okay, and not a lot is happening in Persia still. Yeah, you can see what I'm thinking there with that river line. It is a good defensive position, and my SS troops are right in the region. I would be relying on the AI kind of linking up with us though, but how about I just do this? Send them back one province, and then, well, our supply line should be pretty secure. I don't really have to worry about supplies. As you can see, I've got a fair few coming in by ship to all those ports on the Crimean Peninsula. So, supplies weren't actually a concern. I mean, it still helps to have a second land route just in case things go poorly, but not necessarily necessary, if you know what I mean. Let's just move some of my SS troops forward a bit, just not really an offensive, just pushing the front forward, help with position and attrition. Oh cool, got some new technologies. And actually medical evacuation would be quite... oh, that improves morale. I was hoping that would improve troop flow back or one of these first aid things. Casualty trickle back. Negative 547.7 manpower. Service fire requirement I've already got. Collaboration government gives me the most manpower. Yeah, it gives me a third of what they would otherwise. Not that I'm really occupying much. Oh, and the British have started advancing into Persia. Well, the Persians aren't, defending that region at all, and the French are coming to back them up. Which is kind of interesting since France isn't really defending Indochina, it's just letting Australia take it. But I'd rather they attacked Persia anyway. Another infantry division gone. I'm still a bit concerned about the fighting in North Poland here, but at the moment things look like they're going well for us. Actually, things seem pretty good here, to be honest, on the whole front. This whole episode we've managed to hold that river line. Actually, we've pushed up to it slightly. Seems to be pretty stagnant in northern Poland, but we've retaken Rostov and Don, and the AI's pushing forward a bit in the very south. So it basically seems, well, the Soviets haven't broken, but we've kind of worn them down to even. And as I say, the signs that they're building passes in suggest that they are getting very low on manpower as well. Which means very good. It means that the last 4 episodes might have been a bit of a, well, let's say a hiatus in our German push into the conquering of the Soviet Union. It was about a year ago that we started really at, advancing into Soviet lands. So, Great Patriotic War and For the Motherland basically gave them a year's reprieve. Well, that's probably a bit optimistic to say at the moment. But, yeah. I'll look at the manpower losses here. That division is half strength. Those ones are all half strength. So yes, saying they gave them a year's reprieve is actually very optimistic. My army is absolutely battered here. And even if the Soviets do break, they're not really in a position to exploit it that much. And I see a bit of an encirclement opportunity here. My SS aren't even on the front line for the most part. But we'll ignore that and push up to the river line. Just try and get the Soviets, not really to break, but if we get them pushing back, that's kind of how we managed to break them last time. Just keep wearing them down with these little pushes. That division has no general, which you can have General Modell. Von Schwerin? Modell. Very good general. Yeah, this river should be a pretty good defensive line if we can hold it. If we can reach it, is possibly a better way of saying that. But our SS troops are getting there. 21st Panzer Division shattered. It does seem to be getting pretty easy to actually push the Soviets back. Although this could just be a symptom of them sending troops down to fight in Persia, which I kind of expected them to do and would lead to a temporary weakness on the front, but I didn't expect that to be really permanent. I suppose it might be, because I shouldn't be sending any, the British troops in Open Commando Africa who aren't currently engaged in this fight should hopefully come into the fight through the Caucasus, which means that the Soviets will probably have to divert troops to engage them in the long term. And here you see me attempting an encirclement. We should be able to pull this off. It's just... Okay, so while there's a heavy armoured division and a mechanised division there, so they're pretty high priority targets. Definitely things I want to kill if I can. And let's just try it. See, actually there's 2 heavy armoured divisions in this little pocket I've drawn. So very much something I want to encircle here. And just move 5th SS into a reserve position. And, well, we'll leave it there, see how that encirclement goes next time. But, well, as I said a few times, it's actually looking pretty promising for us here. We've started actually pushing the Soviets back in the very south and holding the front everywhere else. The war against Persia hasn't been going that great so far, but let's bring Britain into the fight against the Soviet Union. At least it will once we take Persia, and Britain is fighting down there, so we know that'll work out for us. And yeah, the partisans things is the unknown quantity for me. I suspect it means that the Soviets are having manpower issues, because I mean I'm doing the exact same thing because I have manpower issues. But I'm not 100% sure if that's true. But combined with the fact that the Soviets aren't doing a very good job of defending, and they're definitely not doing a very good job of attacking, and they're building partisans, it does suggest to me that actually the Soviets are about to break again. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens next time. I'll see you all then.